Friends, today I've brought you a chilling story about a truck driver. It's a truly terrifying tale, so be sure to watch this video until the end. Without further ado, let's dive into the story. My name is Javed Khan. I'm around 45 years old and I'm from Peshawar. I've been driving a truck for years, making this journey my life. Day and night blur together. Sometimes I head to Swat, other times to Mardan or Lahore. Each city has its stories, and each road has its fears. However, the night I spent driving to Swat was a night that unveiled a whole new level of fear for me. This incident took place in November 2014 as winter was just beginning. I had a load of cargo to deliver to Swat at night. I started my journey from Peshawar at midnight. Fatigue enveloped me, but night driving is often easier with less traffic. The road to Swat is treacherous, especially at night, surrounded by dark mountains and a haunting silence. Sometimes, it feels as if I'm the only person left in the world, a thought that scares me terribly at night. Around 3 a.m., I had reached a secluded spot near Kalapani. The winding road felt deserted, and suddenly, the truck's engine stalled. Panic settled in, and as I stepped out, all I could see were dark silhouettes of mountains and no mobile service. I stood there for a moment, attempting to restart the engine, but to no avail. The cold was intensifying, and then suddenly, a scream pierced through the silence. It was a woman's voice, echoing from a distance, and my heart raced. I began to sweat from fear. After a moment, I heard the scream again, this time much closer. My heartbeat quickened uncontrollably. Summoning all my courage, I turned on the truck's lights and saw something white in the distance slowly approaching me. Terror gripped me, and my legs began to tremble. Should I run or stay put? As the figure drew nearer, it stopped right in front of me. It was a woman's face, but it was so horrifying that I couldn't help but scream. Her hair was unkempt, her eyes were blood red, and blood trickled down her body. She lunged at me, and I bolted. I jumped into the truck and tried to start it, but it wouldn't budge. Desperately, I grabbed a stone and hurled it at her. She screamed and recoiled, giving me a moment to restart the engine, which fortunately roared back to life. I drove off frantically while she chased me, seemingly floating above the ground. I sped for several kilometers until I spotted a hotel. I quickly parked and rushed inside. The staff looked fearful upon seeing me. I recounted my tale, and they offered me tea and a room. I couldn't sleep that night, jolting at every faint sound. When dawn broke, I left the hotel and returned to Peshawar. Many years have passed since that night, yet it remains vividly etched in my mind. I've avoided that road ever since, and should I ever need to travel it again, it will only be during the day. Who was that woman, and what had happened to her? This question lingers in my thoughts. One thing is certain, I can never forget that night, as it has built an impenetrable wall of fear around me. After returning to Peshawar, I was fine for a few days, but gradually things began to change. I started losing sleep at night. Every noise sent chills down my spine, reminding me of that woman's scream. Even during the day, I felt as if she was lurking behind me. One night, I lay in bed, my eyes shut but my mind racing. Suddenly, I woke up to the darkness, sensing someone watching me. My heart began to race. As my eyes adjusted to the shadows, I saw her standing right beside my bed. The same white figure, the same blood-red eyes and disheveled hair. I screamed, but no sound escaped my lips. My body had frozen in fear. She moved closer, and I mustered all my strength to leap out of bed and dash out of the room. I raced down the stairs and noticed her pursuing me. I fled into the night, running down the road without any intention of stopping. Eventually, I found myself in a graveyard. The darkness was thick, and an eerie silence enveloped the place. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew through, shaking the tree branches. And then I heard it, the same scream that haunted me that night. Panicked, I searched for an exit, but to no avail. Graves surrounded me, and that sound, that horrific scream, chased me. In desperation, I sought refuge behind a grave, my heart beat erratic as I struggled to breathe. I prayed for death to take me away. Suddenly, something fell on me, and in sheer terror, I closed my eyes. When I opened them again, I was being buried alive, dirt cascading over me, drowning out my cries. I screamed for help, but no one came. The soil rose to my mouth, and I felt myself suffocating in utter darkness. As consciousness faded, a flicker of dim light appeared. I slowly opened my eyes to find myself in a small, confined space, walls closing in around me. There was no breeze, just a thin beam of light. Looking around, I noticed strange writing on the walls that sent a shiver down my spine. Suddenly, I heard that same haunting scream, this time much closer. My heart raced, panic flooding my veins. I shut my eyes, wishing for eternal sleep, but sleep wouldn't come. The walls began to tremble, and a crack formed, followed by an eerie gust of wind. Then I saw it, one eye, a bloody red eye, widening and inching closer. I screamed again, but no sound came out. I was paralyzed. That eye grew larger until it manifested into the same woman, more terrifying than before. Her face was caked in blood, a knife clutched in her hand as she advanced towards me. In an adrenaline-fueled moment, I pushed back against the wall, desperately trying to escape, but she continued to stalk closer. The knife dangled dangerously close to my throat, my breath quickening as fear washed over me. I thought about surrendering to this fate, but a voice within urged me to fight. I opened my eyes, staring deep into her eyes, panic paralyzing me. Then, unexpectedly, a blinding light enveloped me. When I regained my senses, I found myself alone, surrounded by emptiness. The sun shone outside, a new world lay before me, but the fear that had gripped me clung to my every breath. I wandered aimlessly, ultimately reaching a village that seemed welcoming. However, the villagers eyed me with caution, and when I tried asking one woman for help, she simply advised against going back. I settled into life there, yet the dread remained, a nagging terror that plagued both my nights and days. Eventually, that familiar scream haunted me again, propelling me to flee deep into the forest. The further I went, the deeper the silence grew, yet I could still hear her voice calling. At one point, I discovered a faint light weaving through the trees, leading me to a small hut. Curious, I peered inside to find the same woman I had encountered before, sitting with another, an elderly figure trying to comfort her. Without a clear decision, the pull of curiosity led me inside. As soon as I stepped through the door, both women looked at me in terror. I wanted to ask the young woman who she was, why she was crying, but she only continued to weep, and the old woman gestured for me to leave. I complied but found myself fixated on the hut and that woman's pain. Days passed, and the villagers increasingly distanced themselves from me. Feeling an overwhelming need to uncover the truth about the woman, I packed my belongings and left, heading once again through the forest to seek the hut. Anxiety caused me to feel like I was being watched, every crackle of the branches heightening my fears until I sprinted down a narrow path. Just as I thought I had escaped, that shadow appeared again, quiet and dreadful. But this time, I could see its features clearly. It loomed closer, its breath foul and rotten. Fear clawed at my insides, suffocating me, yet in that moment, a light flashed. The next thing I knew, I was standing under a clear sky, the moon illuminating my path. No creatures loomed in the night, but a sense of danger lurked just out of sight. After spending more days in the city, a certain calmness enveloped me. But still, I sensed the faint shadow of that relentless fear. Years passed, and I tried to rebuild my life, finding joy in my marriage and the birth of my son. However, the specter of fear remained embedded in my heart. One fateful night, I dreamed of the woman again. Her ghostly laughter echoed through my mind, reminding me that no matter how hard I tried, the fear would always shadow me. I continued to live my life, embracing laughter with my family while grappling with my inner demons. Life became an ongoing struggle against fear, a battle I could never truly win. Because that shadow, that fear, will forever cling to us, no matter how intensely we strive to overcome it. And so, friends, this is where today's story concludes. Remember, everyone battles their own fears. My name is Javed Khan, and as I drive my truck from Islamabad to Murree, I often look back at those nights forever haunted by what I saw. Despite the passage of time, the shadows linger, and I know that fear is an emotion we all share. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, goodbye.